Started with our community development meeting. It's January 23rd, 2025. The time is 10 a.m. In attendance are Commissioners Eberline and Duncan, and we are potentially expecting Commissioner Matari. No opening remarks. Any changes to the agenda? Okay. We don't have anything for conflicts of interest, no public hearing or deliberations. We'll get right down to our business item, and that's the Vacant Planner II position. Director Callahan.
Commissioners, good morning. We wanted to talk with you about this because we have some ideas in mind. We'd like to know what you think about. On the vacant planner spot, we haven't filled it because we haven't found the right person yet, but it's also the case that we've noticed a pretty significant drop in current planning work. And so we don't actually really need this spot right now. However, I'm not willing to give it up yet because the economy could change dramatically in the next few months, especially with all the wildfires and nuttiness in California. You can imagine the situation where we get another wave of people moving here like we did right after COVID, where we were at our peak of an all-time high of processing work.
Right.
And so I just like you to keep that in the background. We may need this spot in the very near future. But also another way to think about this is we have never had a long-range planner in our department. And in case you don't know, it's traditional and typical for every planning department in the country to have both a long-range planning division and a short-range planning division. The short range is what you have experienced with Vlad and Ben et al. Of people bringing you variances and rezonings and so on, where there's public hearings required. But long-range is typically the group that thinks ahead 15, 20 years and keeps the comprehensive plan current and works with the Planning Commission on a regular basis to be thinking about policy, goals, and objectives to drive things in a long view of the world. And I'll confess, most planners go to school to do long-range planning. They end up doing current planning because there are jobs there.
Right.
But long-range planning is kind of what most planners see as the ideal what they strive to do. So I say all that to set the stage that if we don't actually need the current planning position in another 2 or 3 or 4 months, I'd like you to be thinking about allowing us to convert this position to a long-range planner who would offset the cost that we're actually paying a consultant right now to do long-range planning.
The planning position is already in the budget, but we just can't hire for it.
Right.
How many 1s, 2s, and 3s do you have? Do you know that?
Ben, can you help me with that?
Okay. Currently we have, on the current planning side, so those are the ones that are actually processing the development applications like the subdivisions and such, we've got 3 planner 2s and a planner 3. Vlad is the planner 3, who's kind of more the trainer of those other positions. But then we also have some planner 2s and some planner 1s that are on the front counter side that do more, site-specific planning, building permits, site disturbance permits, and so on.
Okay. All right, so you want to wait a few months just to make sure that position doesn't need to be filled?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mark, do you have questions? Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Okay. Bruce, do you have questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I,
Yes.
Madam Chair, can I just add a couple things to what David said? A couple other things they can do also that we've experienced recently are potentially handling area-wide zone change requests, whether coming from the county or from from a neighborhood or whatever. And they can also kind of be the point person for potential code amendments, which has been kind of spread out between David and his staff and myself. So those are
Thank you. Those are
kind
good
of some
points.
other justifications for having a long-range planner on staff, whether they're a 2 or 3, et cetera.
Cougar Gulch and
Yeah,
the
the-
tribal rezoning
right,
could have been
exactly.
done by that person
You know,
instead of a
and-
consultant.
The
Okay.
potential rezoning we're looking at to adjust the setbacks for lakeshore properties would be another one.
Right.
That a long-range planner could handle, and then that frees up time for the current planners and the front counter planners to do current planning and front counter planning respectively. So I think it would be more than justified from a, budgetary standpoint, and just, being able to get more work done, and
Thank you.
that kind of thing.
Okay. So anything to add, Craig?
Yes, thank you. For the record, Craig Davidson, Deputy Director for Community Development of Operations. Also, this person would most likely be that which would conduct the public outreach in a lot of these projects and things like that. Would kind of be the eyes and ears of the county to make personal contact with those entities that they're for the comp plan adjustments and updates and things like that. So it would be very, very advantageous in that aspect, as well as the cost benefit analysis to the county, to reduce the contractor amounts that are outsourcing right now, especially for the comp plan update.
Thank you.
Okay. So I would say in 3 to 4 months, bring it back as a business item, and then we can direct to put on HR if that's what we need to do.
Thank you.
So, all right. Our next item is disposition procedures for tax deed parcels not sold at auction. And Deputy Director of Operations Davidson, please.
Yes, Commissioners, this is no new process, as you well know, that we do have properties auctioned off periodically through the county. These are specifically properties that have gone to auction, have not sold in the tax deed process. Right now, we're looking at about 74 of them. Community Development has had 20 of them referred to us for research and disposition. The purpose of the discussion is just kind of get some guidance from the board, no action required, of course. We sent in the packet, there is a formal letter upon research by Ben and his staff that has a recommended basically format to present to the BOCC for recommendation of disposition of these parcels. What's not on there is if you wanted the data for the tax amount when it did go for the minimum that was required on the sales of the property. And the other issue for guidance we would ask is, because there's so many of them, if you would want them brought up in batches like of 5 or however many during the community development meeting, so as not to basically cause an undue hardship on the process. And we're amicable to any of the desires. It's just what's best suited for you guys in the recommendation process and bringing it before you.
Okay. Bruce, thoughts?
Well, I like batches, and whatever's going to be most efficient for the department or those involved in the process.
Okay. Mark? Thoughts? Okay. I would agree with batches as well. I don't want to see 20. So as they come up, I would be comfortable handling them. So, if you've got 2 or 3, then they're easier to keep track of. When you give us 20 or even double digits, then it's a little bit harder, to keep track because they're such small parcels. So, in the past, the check has come to the BOCC, then the BOCC puts the word out to you and to the treasurer's office. And so the BOCC still needs the treasurer information.
Sure.
Yeah, and that can still be handled on the BOCC level because we have a process in place still. But yeah, just work, if you think that process needs to be changed, then we can talk about it. But at this time, that's kind of where we're at. And then you could also be in contact with our office to be, Terry Johnson's the one that handles it, to be like, okay, so we've got 2 people interested. So be on the lookout for a sealed bid for these 2, locations or whatever. So just kind of keeping everybody in the loop because you'll have already done the work. So
I know I find my the community development review very useful in my own review of these.
Okay, anything else on these?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Item 3, possible referrals for Aquifer Protection District. Director Callahan.
Well, let me lead off by saying I don't really want to do referrals. The reason this is before you is because of a rather unusual circumstance where the city of Hayden staff, without contacting anyone, sent a referral to the Aquifer Protection District on a project within the city limits. And the chair reached out to me and said, "What's going on?" I said, "I have no clue." So I contacted the director, found out that they just did this because they thought that the Aquifer Protection District might have useful information. So I informed the staff that, well, first of all, it'd be like reaching out to our planning commission. They have no staff, they have no one to turn to do a review and send them response. So in the future, just send it like you always have in the past, send it to me, and if I need to, I'll pass it on to staff, and we'll go accordingly. But I just wanted to touch base with you because it's conceivable that there might be some situation where the Aquifer Protection District might need to weigh in and send something to a city-owned referral. For instance, that comes to mind is we're working with the APD to come up with an overlay that we'll put into our GIS system for critical recharge areas.
Right.
And if one of these developments happen to be in one of those areas, we'd want the city to know.
Yep.
Again, I still think that's something we could do. We could drive it. We might need to show up at an APD meeting and just tell them we're doing this.
Yeah.
But I just wanted you to be aware of the situation.
Sure. And they have no authority. They're not a regulatory body. And yeah, it's like the Airport Advisory Board being, somebody applying for a building permit to them.
Exactly
So,
like
yeah.
that. Thank you
Okay.
for understanding.
Yep, absolutely. So Bruce, thoughts or questions?
I agree with Director Callahan's assessment on this one.
Okay. Mark?
Ditto.
Okay. All right. So with that is our meeting.
Best kind of meeting. Thank you for
Yeah.
your time.
10:13, meeting adjourned.
Thank you for waiting.